Okay. I just want to talk about films that I think are important. Now, right, there's obviously films that I think are the best films of all time in terms of like my favorite films of all time. But films that I can remember that I think are very important films, I'm gonna talk about that. So I think first I want to talk about is from the year 1962. There's a film titled Pressure Point, and I do not want to get into detail at all about this film. Just look it up on Google. Pressure Point 1962, and just try to find a way to able to buy that film to watch it, um, because it's a very important film. I can't really get into detail because it's very overwhelming topics within the film, and it's very I think I already said it's overwhelming. So yeah, it's very it's just I don't think I would do the film justice. It's just I think it's one of the important things to mention that film in this video, because if I don't, it feels like a disservice. It feels like I'm not doing the right thing, right? I'm not doing the right thing. Like I'm doing like it'd be terrible if I forgot to mention this film, Pressure Point from 1962. And it's important to put the year because there's another film that goes by the same name, and obviously that's not the same film. Look, you have to look specifically for Pressure Point 1962. Very important film. You can watch the movie trailer first, so maybe you can get a little bit of understanding. Maybe read the movie description, a summary of it. But yeah, I recommend definitely to watch that film. But like I said, my warning is very overwhelming with the topics within that film, the themes, whatever you want to say. Another important film is 12 Angry Men from the year 1957. So obviously, a very specific year. Also for this one, 1957, because there's another one that's from a different year. So specifically 1957. So 12 Angry Men, 1957. I'm not going to get too much in detail in this either because there's a lot that goes on, a lot of different themes and topics within this. You can just look up the description of the film. I think it explains it pretty well. Um, Definitely better than the other film, but yeah. You can watch the trailer, obviously, right? They're on YouTube. There should be always a trailer for every film that I'm talking about here. But yeah, it's very, very important. I guess I'll just talk about Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. I think this one is just very something where I'm not going to make this very simple because for the film Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, it is not as simple as one word. I'm going to give more stronger statement about this. In the time this film came out, I would just definitely say it was extremely much more important. But it's still very important for this time because it's important this time to understand back in that time how things were. And also still in certain ways, whatever people want to say. But it's a very important film, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, because it's not just to do with one word, where it's not just to do with the word, one word, that people just throw around. No, this film titled Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. The film is about the reality of prejudice at that time, and the reality of people not judging someone based off of their character, based upon their lifestyle, or how they live their life, or how they speak, or right how they act, but instead, just because their skin color is different, they treat them differently, not because of anything else, but just because of their skin color. Because what? And right, okay, people can just say, well, and then the film's about racism, but no, it's much more deeper in that. Because it's much more deeper than that. Because it gets into more of the complexity. If you look into if you obviously pay attention to the film, I don't think probably this. If you were to look up a description of the film, I don't think it does it justice. You have to watch the entire film. Well, you can still watch the trailer before that, but I don't know how good it is from what I remember the trailer. But you just it's definitely another very important film. It's not just to do with racism. There's more complexity within it. It's about the struggle between like this acceptance and progressing as humans and taking risks. I think that's a word I was trying to get. It's about taking a risk and about like this is really about an actual challenge, not being just like, oh, maybe someone might look at me weird, like, or oh, someone might say something. No, more of this threat of maybe getting like more of violence, that someone might be violent against you. Like back in that time, there's more, and then even, um, we're talking about like even like it makes you start thinking, more about history, and if you do your research and really know about that, and about taking risks, and about, you know, changing people's minds, and just blowing people's minds, like, wow, they're really taking that risk, like, wow, they know what's gonna happen, they know that there's gonna be pushback, they know, right, and like, it's very interesting because it doesn't just show from one perspective, obviously. It shows from different perspectives and reasoning. Uh, um, of like, it's definitely not just to do with that. There's also some interesting other themes within it. Um, but mostly it's focused on, right, taking a risk, and just there are reactions of like asking other people to accept that, and not just accept that, but to like to give permission to this risk that they're taking, and allowing it to exist, allowing it to happen, and being part of something that is very shaky, very uncomfortable within the context of the history of when this film came out, and just everything that even happened way before the year this film came out, even. But still, even for the context of that year. But I don't want to go on too much about this film. I just wanted to very much emphasize this is not just about very simple, oh, just, people are prejudiced and oh, there's people who are racist. No, it can be much more deeper than that. Things can be much more complex when it's to do with taking a risk, and to do with this contrast between, where there will be people who will see something where this person is this skin color and this person is a different skin color. And people who don't seem to understand, I hope they would understand if they watch this film, or at least maybe they can learn from history and do their research. It's an amazing film. An amazing actor, Sidney Poitier, is in the film. One of the best actors of all time is Sidney Poitier. Oh yeah, and Sidney Poitier is also in the film Pressure Point. I forgot to mention that. But yeah. What else do I have to say? because these are the films I could remember so far. So there's probably some other important films I would mention, but the last film I'm going to mention that I think is an important film is My Dinner with Andre. Now, I don't know how far I'm going to go into detail about this, but um, if you think, oh, this is like, you, there's a chance that there will be people who find this a boring film. Um, if if you're one of those people who like, you know, different cuts in films, different edits, you know, where it's like one thing, another thing, another thing, right? If you really are that type of action person, a person who doesn't like to think deep, a person who doesn't like, you know, stuff that's more introspective, I don't know if that's a word, or things that are a dialogue, things that are more getting ideas out there and topics and information. If you're more a person who's just like, yeah, action, you know, I'm all just crazy stuff, but it's like, it's more of like a thinking film because it's a conversation between two people. It really right. I don't want to be a person who describes a film, but it's like, oh, you know, catching up with this person he hasn't seen in a long time. You know, no, well, how's it been and whatever, and then the guy tells a story with it, and then they get into like maybe a debate or conversation, and ideas. You know, just saying what they're thinking to each other, and how they're feeling about life and reality in general, and what they think of what the other person said, and there's a lot of themes, a lot of topics in this film, um, and I've watched this film. I think like the entirety of the film. I probably watched it. I would say, maybe like 3 or more times. I'm talking about like in its entirety from start to finish, maybe more. I cannot remember, but I know it's definitely been more than one time, more than 2 times, and probably 3 times or maybe more. But yeah, it's a very interesting film to me. Um, just like all the other films, it's a very important film because it can make you really think about just life experiences and the choices you make as a person, and just like what makes someone start changing their mentality, and is it always really a good thing when someone's mentality is changed, because sometimes they can think really negative and they'll be trying to influence other people to live a similar lifestyle to them because of their past experiences, but then also how life can be strange and how things can happen, and trying to understand things. And I think it's very interesting because it's very much this type of outsider perspective in terms of it's very disconnected from a lot of other things, even though there's times where it mentions a lot of things, it doesn't really look at that as a solution. Um, and it seems like it's more of a film showing like people that are lost, trying to figure out, you know, like, but they can't figure it out because they're lost. And so it's really these two people who are lost in life. Do they think they have the answers? Like he seems like, but is he confident, or is it just a mask? Is he just covering up? But it's very interesting. It's very confusing, maybe what I'm saying, but that's why you have to watch the film to understand it, because it's a very talking film. That's pretty much what it's about. I'll keep this very simple. He goes, I forget the name of the character now, but he goes, right, obviously, to the restaurant, because obviously there's a reservation or whatever, goes to the restaurant, blah, 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 and they're basically talking at the table at the restaurant while they, take some short time to eat their food, either while one listening to another, or whatever it may be. But it's like, the film takes most of the time, the majority of the film is in one setting, in one place. It's at this table in this fine dining restaurant, whatever. That's most of the film, is them talking at this table, at this restaurant, fine dining restaurant, whatever. and just all these topics and these themes and the emotions, um, and the stories, the experiences, um, the conflict within a film, um, and just how it can make you think about life, and maybe it'll remind you of someone that you know, or remind you maybe of another film, or make you think about history. Um, but that's it for this video. I just want to talk about films that I think are important, because these films can really make people think. Now, obviously, um, I would say, I'm not trying to say like, oh, these films you have to live your life by or something dumb like that. No, it's just, it's always good to challenge yourself to, be like, interesting, you know what I mean? And I think it's good because it helps us understand why some people, the mentality where there's people who feel like they need to stand up against something, or you'll understand maybe why someone's crazy, why someone just can't handle life, can't handle people, because it's just people don't understand, or understand why someone's full of hatred, or understand um, people, how their mentality changes for the better or for the worst, or the influences, how experiences can influence someone's lifestyle for the rest of their life until maybe something bad happens. For example, in one of the films, I'm not going to say which one, but you'll obviously find out in the end of the film which film it is. But who knows? Maybe it applies to another. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I mean, I'm getting a little bit sidetracked, but yeah, it's just like, wow. It's like there's good like endings to the film, and then there's like kind of a good, kind of a bad ending to one, and then the other one feels like unsure, right? But it, you know, definitely it makes you think, these films. Now, the question is it more negative than positive, more positive than negative? I think that's more up to you and how you perceive it. I think really, when people watch films, depending on what mentality you're in, your mindset, depending on what's happening in your life recently, you can look at a film very differently. And you can look at more of the negative aspects of a film after, not even after done watching, just watching the film in general, just watching a film. You can just see, you some people will connect more with stuff that's negative than positive, and there's people who connect more with what's the positive than what's negative. And that's just depending on a mentality mindset. But of course, mentalities and mindsets can be changed. But I don't know, right, how people are going to perceive these films and how they're going to think about it. But all I would just say is just, I think it's important to watch these films, and hopefully it's for the better, not for the worst. Because it's just to understand human beings and understand, the more unique, more of these standing out from the crowd, not being part of a system, you know what I mean? Not just being quiet and just, you know, being like, it's just simple, this is life, just live life, do this, do that, and, can't question anything, you can't be bothered by anything, you can't speak up about anything, you can't think, well, life experiences, should I make this choice or should I not make this choice? Should I trust people? Should people trust me? And right, it's really like, because, right, people can, right, say whatever negative or positive, but there's different ways people view things, because, you know, there's, being content, being grateful, being thankful, and then there's being complacent. There's a point where you're just you just live life and you're not really trying. You're just whatever. It's all whatever. it is what it is. This is just life. But it's like you could do more. You could feel more fulfilled. You're bored. You're you're feeling like unsureness. You're feeling like eh, like lazy, right? Or just uncaring in terms of doing something. Um, and I think this also could, I think there's people who don't understand, people who don't have empathy, people who literally, like, there's people who start off with empathy and they'll unlearn that. Like, they'll learn, because empathy can only go so far sometimes if someone's like, because it's like, then you get used by people. You don't want to be manipulated by people. And, right, that's important. But all I just want to say is, for me, I'm going to be 100% who I am forever. And I'm not going to pretend to be someone I'm not, you know? Because it really annoys me, that idea of just like, I'm going to pretend to be someone I'm not so that someone likes me, so that I can get validation, so that I can get this opportunity, so that I can be able to do this and do that, right? Obviously, there's a certain point where you can only, like, but, outside of, like, work, outside of a workplace, outside of that, unless, people get themselves caught up in a situation where it's like, now they have these connections and they see these people and they go these places and they're kind of stuck. They can't really, maybe just in their private life, just at their own place. But even sometimes not even at their own place, they can really be themselves, people, because it's like, if they have roommates or whatever it may be, people in like college dorm rooms or whatever it may be, or in apartments or whatever it may be, or people who have brothers and sisters, right? And it's just like, it's crazy to think that there's people who they want to express themselves, and I'm talking about where it's actually good stuff. It's not bad stuff, it's not evil stuff, it's just good stuff. But there's people who are not understanding enough, and it's just crazy to think about it. And this, what is this all? The whole point is, this all goes back to thinking about different topics, about different themes, about life, about people, different lifestyles, different mentalities, experiences. So it's just, this is meant to go back to thinking about a lot of stuff that these films, you know, these films express a lot of different topics and a lot of different themes. And a lot of these films, I feel like I feel like I said, yeah, about the one film that is very overwhelming, but no, a lot of these films, depending on who you are, it can be overwhelming. But there's not much else I want to say. I feel like I got out what most of the stuff I have to say. I don't like to structure, right? I'm trying to structure it a little bit, so I feel like maybe I made it make sense a little bit. But I don't like to make things too structured, because I don't like pretending. Um, like I just said, I don't like pretending like, oh, I know what I'm talking about, and like, oh, right, I got it all figured out. You know, I'm not gonna have like a list. I'm not putting up stuff. I'm not da da da. I'm not gonna show video clips. I'm not gonna show whatever pictures or whatever. I'm not gonna do a slideshow. I'm not gonna do whatever. I'm not gonna do a whole bunch of editing. I'm just gonna make this video talking about it, because I don't know. It's like, just to show how important these films are to me, but to show that I can't even really speak too much about these films in a descriptive sense. I can't get too detailed, because I would not be doing these films justice if I were to start getting too much into the story, because the film emphasizes it by trillions of times, and it's just like, it gets back to the point. Just, you should just watch the films if you haven't watched the films. And if any of these films I've mentioned you already watched, then that's good. But and I would be really surprised if you watched all these films, and that would be like, wow. Then maybe watch them again if you haven't watched them in a very long time. But yeah, that's it.